Have you seen anything unusual this morning?
Well, I don't know. Darndest noise ever. Never heard anything like it on the wires before.
You've been out in the sun all morning.
No, it's not the sun.
Mind if I give it a listen?
Sure. Here, listen. Hear it?
Yeah. Any idea what it is?
I don't know. Might be somebody up that way tapping the wires, or back that way listening to us like we're listening to him.
I wonder who it is.
I don't know. After you've been working out on the desert 15 years like I have, hear a lot of things. See a lot of things, too. Sun in the sky, and the heat. All that sand out there with the rivers, lakes that aren't real at all. And sometimes you think that the wind gets in the wires and hums and listens and talks. Just like what we're hearing now.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
AI will be the new GTM.
Thank you, Steve.
People who are here at Superweek, people who are data and analytics experts from all over the world. We are participating in the next technology wave that is happening now with the interest in AI. But we're also thinking about the limits of the attention that we should give that.
This is one of the eras where technology is moving much faster than our ability to digest. It's similar to the Gutenberg moment. No one really understood the implications of that until 300 years later. With the pace of change of technology now, it will be much faster than 300 years, but this is one of the moments where technology is moving faster than our comprehension.
Threat will come from regulatory assessment with less knowledge than is required, and the expertise in this field won't be able to fight the power. The more that digital marketing as a whole tries to bring in AI, that will almost look like a signal to these regulatory bodies, these unions, to say, actually, we need to clamp down on this because there is going to be a problem.
There are now key people in the new US administration that are focused on crypto and focused on AI and focused on data, and that may be great, and that may be not so great. I would not be surprised to see some executive orders or laws come out of kind of the current administration that change the way that we are looking at data.
There will be some headwinds in terms of, because of the geopolitical thing going on around the world, especially the US election, the result of it. So data, sort of ownership, data, patriotic things like that. And that's how Schrems 2 happened, where you were not allowed to transfer the data between EU and the US. That may happen in the next year or two.
Because really, when you look at the conversations we have around AI, most of them are about like the risk or the threat or the implication. Very few are about, here's an application of it that makes sense to a business.
This is different. It's not a tool. It is many, many, many tools and no regulations around it. You can think behind the scenes. It can connect to different products, especially anything with the API. It can trigger some actions in the outside world, which is the scary part of it.
Right now, there is a big hole in the industry where everyone is talking about AI, but it's not taking us any further than we would do normally.
AI will take probably way more areas from the analysts compared to the data engineers. The big disruption coming in the next maybe year or two would be questioning if we would need analysts or many of these tasks would be outsourced to AI agents.
What AI needs is good data, and it needs cases to build on. And while we have a lot of data that is of different quality, but what we don't have is a lot of cases of analysis. So we have very little actual analysis data to train the AIs on.
It can change at any point. Once that happens, I think then it goes quickly.
As there's the increase in GenAI, there's almost certainly going to be an increase for the need in experimentation, because all of these ideas need to be evaluated in market, because we don't know beforehand whether or not our customers are actually going to be responsive to them.
And that is a new opportunity for us to track and measure new things.
What I'm looking for is the news headline that says, like, here is something that leveraged AI that resulted in a huge positive impact in some way. And not just like the wow factor of, wow, look what we did.
As this percolates down into more and more companies that start using the same technology as it becomes more and more ubiquitous, I think it's unclear what the market equilibrium is going to be.
In my everyday life, I think the question we mostly get from clients is there something we should be doing with this? You know, their data is good enough to be able to incorporate or to be able to start using AI to automate things. We're still at the point of like building trust, building understanding with data, getting them to the level of knowing what they're collecting, trusting in it, and activating it in, you know, the really effective basic ways. The AI side of it isn't really relevant for their purposes.
Some sort of empowerment is already there. The challenge may be like for those that sets the expectations, right? The person that puts the expectations, or like how much faster do I want you to be, right? How much, because yeah, like as you said, the idea is to be able to maybe do less, and the same with less instead of do more in less, right? And then you're just putting more pressure on the thing.
As initially, there'll be sort of a land grab, but over time, as the technology is in more and more companies' hands, we're going to start seeing all of the marginal benefit of using some of this technology is going to be competed away.
My question is, like, where does continued innovation come from? One area that concerns me is the generative AI is built upon the past. Right? So the best it can do for you is say anything that has been observed. But what the output of that, maybe does that create a ceiling?
So if you think about it, we have something that they call the foundational models. These models, like what OpenAI is doing, what other vendors are doing, there is no much creativity that could be done above what they do, or the progress and the competitiveness is really high on that.
It also depends on the way that your thinking actually works. So you test out your own thoughts, but you do it by verbalizing. It's also known as rubber ducking. If you have a mind where you know your thoughts and you would like to juggle them, and it might not say anything really smart, but it will say something that will get my brain to click.
But what would be really challenging is how do you apply these models effectively in your different cases? This is where we need to figure out how do we manage that.
They do recognize not only like the ethical implications, but also the brand implications of letting the technology run wild. So I think as an industry, it is our job to, only use it when it's appropriate, to ensure that it's only put in trained hands of people who know what they're doing. That it's not just something flashy that we can, give to a client without ensuring that they understand the broader implications of using that kind of technology.
We always had in our industry is garbage in, garbage out. So it is really, really important so we understand the black box and we understand what we put into the black box. So I don't need to understand the algorithm behind an LLM, but I need to understand which data it's fed to so I can later on interpret the data in the right way. If I don't know the input, it's really hard for me to value the outcome.
So what's going on with our marketing?
Well, it seems like your paid meeting is down.
Yeah, okay, what would you suggest I should do about it? And that's where it fails now, because that's moving into recommendation territory where we don't have the data set. But this is the frontier I see being pushed. So it's not about LLMs, it's about the agentic AIs that will be the really strong part of what we're doing, because they can do a chunk of the implementations, they can do the data monitoring, they can look at the data quality, but they cannot come up with the recommendations yet.
I can do better categorization and classification of my search terms, of my product categories, of the interactions that we have on the website through AI.
Small creators can connect to small audiences where they can have a very meaningful conversation. It's actually tiny communities that are carried by the algorithm. The community building that I think is opening up in that way, potentially disruptive for commerce, and it could mean that the leverage that big brands have will drop.
Machine learning, yes. I think I have clients who are definitely, they have great data that we run machine learning models on, but the large language models, I don't really think I have anyone who it makes sense to focus on that right now.
And machine is learning to actually bring forth the right answer, and based on all the knowledge that we have. So that's a really safe environment.
I feel like the description of what a digital analyst is has expanded exponentially. And so I think that next level is saying, like, well, if we have to deal with all these tools and know all of these things, then our purview isn't just digital analytics or web analytics or app analytics, right? Like, we can do so many more things.
New attribution models, like MMM models coming out, and different cloud services providers are making it even easier to tap into that, because MMM is not a new thing. It's been in existence for 50 years, but has always been seen as a very expensive method to use in attribution, hence not for the faint-hearted.
Digital marketing hasn't changed, apart from regulations, that much in 10 years, maybe 15. We're doing similar tactics. There's still an optimization process that needs to take place. There is still a conversion that we're talking about. There is still a journey and a funnel. We haven't gone that much beyond that, realistically, and that's the next step. By linking all of those things in, which is what Superweek is trying to talk to us about every.
Before coming, I went and I looked at the first program from 2014. And what I did, I was sitting next to somebody at a conference and I showed her the program. He said, "Oh, this program looks really good." And that was the program from 14. And in 14, what we were talking about was doing analysis. It was actually doing things with the data. And then what happened, we had the GTM wave and the GTM server side, and everything turned into tech and implementation and gathering the data and being more sophisticated. But I feel that circle is stopping, that we're now in a place where companies says we need to do something with this data.
Oh, you're a data analytics guy. No. I'm a digital analytics guy. What is the difference? Like, data analysis is often data science. It's heavily on math and statistics and this kind of stuff. Very smart people. They look at data which are just facts. It's like, for us, it's parcel moving from A to B, and you have external factors why a parcel perhaps doesn't move. The parcel itself will never have an opinion or something why it will not move. It's just a good. We look at data where a lot of internal factors can come in.
What we've found is if we discover problems or friction points through data, We then speak with customers and really try to understand why customers behave the way they behave, and that helps us iterate into better experiments so that when we launch an experiment, it has a much higher chance of winning because we have de-risked it. We've taken out the risk of not knowing what customers are thinking.
You know things about the business, you know things about the greater market that aren't reflected necessarily in the data that you're looking at, but they help to tell the story about what's going on. And I don't know that AI can really tease out a lot of those things, at least not yet.
The why should be from the human. So people with a better why, with a better vision, will have more opportunities and less friction to make it real. Hopefully it will be for the best if better minds can figure out how to mitigate the risks of it.
We have like a very unique trait that the machines cannot have ever, which is curiosity. If the analyst is curious enough, they will be able to find the real value that they can add to their businesses. Thinking, for example, about opening new opportunities, finding gaps that could be developed for my company or my team.
I heard a talk just before I got here from Matthew Brandt, who was speaking about decision science and the real value that analytics professionals are able to provide and deliver has to do with our own human judgment applied to problems.
Our data has a human aspect, and that's why we need empathy, and that's why we need people to get this out of the data.
We don't really have a lot of processes for analysis. And that means that we're math without formulas. So we're basically freestyling the analysis based on our own individual experience. And that's really interesting because that's where the diversity of the organization or the industry really can pay off.
It's kind of in a state of metamorphosis and maybe identity change of how do we want to be perceived and how do we want to either lead or follow in like the way the broader social conversation is happening around data and privacy.
Analysis is multifaceted, it's complicated, you don't have a true or false at the end. This is how I analyze the numbers and this is my recommended outcome based on those numbers.
We might see sort of unstable equilibrium, and so as more and more companies start using the technology, we'll start finding ourselves in equilibrium, we'll compete away the advantages, and then perhaps we'll move over the hump. There might be some new technology or some sort of shift, and we'll be in a new valley of opportunity, and then we'll see a growth again of the value.
We will see at some point, hopefully, that tech is not as important as people because we have focused so much on tech in all the years. Steen has had it in his presentation where first it was equalized between tech and people and then tech took completely over. And he said that people will stay as it is.
We communicate better than the machines. We are able to build network within our companies and within the wider community better than the machines. And I think we are able to better articulate what is the value more than the machines. So we will be the ones guiding the machines to build these reports for us, but the analysts have to step up beyond their day-to-day work to ask what is the real value that I'm adding. Otherwise, I am replaceable within the next 2-3 years, if not even sooner.
I think the industry is kind of like at a crossroads where we're going to see, are people going to continue down some of the same paths they've been going? Or are they going to tweak what they're doing with AI and other systems? Or are they going to go in completely new directions? The digital marketing industry as a whole is maturing. And part of that comes with all of these regulations, GDPR, CCPA, everything that has caused the tools to have to become more technical and has kind of changed the description of what like a digital analyst is.
The dynamics of the triangulation between clients and vendors and agencies is shifting. And where it's going to land, well, God only knows, right? But it's certainly shifting in power dynamics.